So, hey, everybody, PC here, and welcome to the first in our fall series of concert artistry. What we do in the classroom to create true artistry begins with beginners and middle school fundamentals taught in the classroom. And this series is going to feature master teachers in short sessions because I know you're Zoomed to the max after all of the challenges of COVID. And so, I often hear when people are talking about great programs, I can never do what he or she does because I don't have the funding, I don't have private lessons, I don't have good instruments, I don't have a great rehearsal hall, and the excuses go on and on. But if you're taking the time to watch this, you're the type of educator who's always looking for answers. And the person we have for you today has so many answers, because the key to any great band program is not facilities and not money and not private teachers. The key is to any great program is the person on the podium. And I chose my first guest not only because she is a master music educator who has the credits and the t-shirts to prove it. She taught for 22 years at the same school, and the demographic could be described as anything but affluent. And yet she created a legendary band program. She's a senior educational consultant for Con Selmer and is director of our educational programs. And tonight, I'm excited to have as my first guest, Erin Cole. As you will discover, Erin is one of those remarkable teachers who, instead of making excuses for why I can't, Erin spends her time deciding, how can I? So Erin, thank you so much for allowing me to twist your arm to come on our program and share your wisdom. I'd like to begin by taking our audience back. We had a little pre-interview. And Erin and I were talking about the fact that both her mom and her dad were educators, and she credits them for much of her success as a teacher. So Erin, would you share a little bit about your early years with us?
Absolutely. And thank you, Paula, for the invitation to come on. It's just an absolute pleasure. Yes, both my parents were teachers. My mom was a sixth grade special education teacher, and my dad was a high school band director. So I think probably it was in my genes. I was born to become a teacher. I knew from the get-go I wanted to be a band director. And, some of the things I probably inherited, at least I'm told, is that teacher look that you can just simply do with your eyes. But I was very fortunate to, kind of follow in my dad's, and I'll be honest with you, my grandfather's footsteps as well. And I'm just going to share my screen here and show you a couple of really neat pictures just to take us back. There, the picture that you see with the person with the trumpet is my grandfather, who back in the day played in the Bristol Cadets Drum and Bugle Corps, which is outside of Philadelphia. Shortly after that picture, he became the corps director, and that is my dad as the drum major for this corps as well. So he started early. He became a high school band director, as I said, and that's me with my dad. I first started on piano when I was, I think, 6 years old, went on to start playing cello in third grade, flute in the fourth grade, and then was in my dad's band as a high school student, was a drum major. That was a challenging yet gratifying time, if it can be both of those things. Then went on to the University of Georgia to major in music, both cello and flute. That's kind of the trajectory there. And I was very fortunate, like I said, to have, both of my parents as educators.
And I suspect they're very proud of their daughter as an educator as well. So I mentioned that you taught for 22 years at the same school. That's where you started and ended your career. Could you talk to us a little bit about that, about the school, the demographics, and just what it was like at that school?
Sure. Yeah. So I absolutely love teaching at Tapp Middle School, which is in Cobb County, Georgia, just north of Atlanta. And our school is a Title I school. We had typically about 750 to 900 students in the school. I was there for a long time. So when I first started teaching there, it was more 900-ish. And then throughout the years, they built some other middle schools to relieve us. But the demographics, like I said, it was Title I school, about 70% free and reduced lunch, 65% economically disadvantaged. So it was a challenge, but I enjoyed every minute of it, and I was so invested in that community. With the 750 or so students in the school, we typically had 400 to 500 in band alone. So it was part of the culture of that community in that school.
That's terrific, Erin. So, what were some of the challenges in teaching in a Title I school?
Yeah. And here's the thing. I feel like every school, every teaching situation has its challenges. It's just what are they and how you become a problem solver to figure out how to, to deal with that. So for us, a lot of the challenges, because there were some financial constraints, was figuring out ways to be able to get that many students in our program and have a place for everyone. So we had to use a lot of our budget money plus extra fundraiser money to get the instruments that we needed for every student. We had the typical, school instruments that are tuba, horn, euphoniums, those kinds of things. But we also had a whole set of clarinets and flutes and trumpets. So we wanted to make sure there was a place for anyone that wanted to be in our program. I mean, even the littlest things like uniform parts. We had a uniform closet where we had extra uniform parts. I would go to Goodwill and just have some extra white shirts, black pants, black shoes, those kinds of things.
And you mentioned budget, and we're always looking for ways. What were some of the ways that you did fundraising to augment
Yeah. And I'll start off by saying, I was very fortunate to teach in Cobb County. And as far as a budget goes, it was very healthy. And that was completely due to the fact that Gary Markham was our music supervisor. So, it was beyond that, though. What were the things I wanted to provide for my program and my students that was outside of the budget? So we had a ton of fundraisers we did. One of the most successful, though, and it was super easy, and I can tell you if you are interested in what I'm about to mention, just email me and I will be happy to share this information with you. But it was a holiday fundraiser. It was called the Holiday Celebration. And students just got donations in order to participate. And then we had the band room from 4 to 8 p.m. open with all kinds of activities for the students. And we had it the day before all state auditions. So one of the activities was their last help session for their all state audition. But, we had a movie room, we had cookie making, all these different things. And 100% of that money went to the band program, as opposed to when you do the cheesecake sale, the pizza sales, all those other things where you're getting maybe 40%. So that, along, we did Chick-fil-A biscuit sales every Friday, you name it, car washes, everything you could think of, we did. But, we had the core group of parents that I knew every single time would help in anything we wanted to do as far as raising money. So.
And you mentioned Gary Markham. I know that the Lassiter Band program and Alfred Watkins, he was kind of a mentor for you, was he not?
Big time. Yeah. So even before I started teaching, going to school in Georgia, that was a program everybody was, we all looked up to the Lassiter Band program. So when I started teaching in Cobb County, I knew that was somebody that I really wanted to learn a lot from. So Alfred was very gracious to always meet with me. And I remember even getting ready for Midwest. I remember going to his house, myself and my 2 assistants, and we sat in the basement with Alfred for hours. He shared everything from his times playing at the Midwest. I still to this day have a lot of the documents that he copied and gave to me, things that I should do. I was fortunate to play in Cobb Wind Symphony under him. And I'll be honest, going to Sunday rehearsals was like going to a master class. I would just sit there and take notes, everything he was doing rehearsal wise. So he was definitely a mentor, and his program was something that I wanted to model, what I was doing and try and make TAP as much like that as I could. Now it was completely different demographic and circumstances from Lassiter to TAP. But it was, again, it's problem solving, figuring out how, okay, at Lassiter, chamber music is a big deal. How do we do that at TAP? Private lessons are a big deal. How are we going to provide that for our students at TAP?
Great. And I should mention that Alfred is one of the people down the road that's going to be one of our interviewees, and I'm really looking forward to that.
That's fantastic.
So I'm a fly on the wall now, and paint a picture of what it was like for the kids to come back to your rehearsals every fall, and even go back a little bit because you also talked about how important it was to organize in the spring.
Yeah, so I think organization is a big piece to having a successful program, whether you're talking about organizing your recruitment plan, or even planning for the next school year. And I always felt like myself and the people I was fortunate to work with, we were always planning the previous year for the next year, if that makes sense. And if I were going to back up even more, we always had a 5-year plan. Where do we want to be in 5 years? How are we going to accomplish that? And it's all backward design, right? Backing up and figuring out, okay, here's what we're going to have to do. Whether it be fundraising, whether it be what we have to do with recruitment, or what literature we want to play, and how are we going to get there by teaching the correct fundamentals. So I think with organization, it's about everything. It's every piece of that. And I was also really lucky to get to teach with some amazing high school directors. I was 100% feedered into one high school. And we always felt like our program wasn't 6 through 8 at Tatt Middle School and then 9 through 12 at McEachern High School. It was more of a 6 through 12 program. And we all team taught, we all worked together. So that organization piece wasn't just me. It was me and the communication with everybody that was on our team.
And speaking of organization, if you were lucky enough to come to Conselmer Institute last summer, you have a small idea of Erin's ability to organize, because it was like a well-oiled machine here. And you just mentioned, Erin, literature list. And I'd ask Erin to share that, and that's going to be in it. So if you want to download it, would you talk just a second about that as well?
Sure. Yeah. So, through the years, we all do this, all teachers that teach for a long time. You have your go-to pieces, the ones that are great teaching pieces. So I thought, I want to be able to organize this and have my go-to grade 1, 2, 3, 4. So I started making a spreadsheet, and throughout the many, many years, whether it be with what I did at TAP or even honor bands in all states, I just keep adding to that list. And I'm happy to share that with anyone that's interested. That will be in Thinkific, and we'll put a link where you can get that. But I have it all organized by concert marches, concert literature, holiday music, you name it. It's all in there. So yes, happy to share.
Oh, that's going to be a gold mine. Thanks so much for that. And you mentioned that over 90% of your school population was in either band, choir, or orchestra. If you could, give us some really quick tips for recruitment and retention.
Sure. So I think the reason we were able to have that many in our school involved in music is because we had a great collaborative working relationship between band, orchestra, and choir. It was never a competition. It was just, we want to make sure that every student is in the right place and playing an instrument they're happy playing. So that all came down to us also being collaborative and on the same page with how are we going to do that. So we started doing our recruitment process in the spring before, and we did a spring night where it was like the early bird signups, and they can sign up for any of our programs. It was an instrument petting zoo testing night. So we all had about 70% of our programs signed up in the spring. And then we would do the same thing again 1 week in the summer, because they had a summer kind of camp thing at our school. And then we got the first week and a half of school to get the rest of the students. So it was kind of a 3-prong approach: spring, summer, and fall.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, how many schools can say Mary Land School in Georgia was the same thing, and you just teach until your hair's on fire. We talked a lot, you talk a lot about process, Erin, and teaching the whys and the fundamentals. Would you share a little bit of your thinking and process there?
Sure. I'm passionate about this topic. I do a session called Hiding the Vegetables, which, I could go on for an hour about this, but in a nutshell, it's about having a process for your students, a fundamental process that I don't call the warm up. I call, our fundamental process, our routine every day. And I think the key with young students is explaining the why behind everything you're doing. So they understand why you're doing scales. Why are we doing these chorales? The why behind all of that, so you can get the buy-in. They have to understand that. And that, why are we spending 75% of the beginning of the school year on our fundamentals program? Why do we have to wait to get to the music? Why are we not spending that much time now? The why behind everything. And I think the second part of that is changing it up. That's the whole Hiding the Vegetables title. So that's not mundane. It's a routine, but you're changing up and keeping it fresh for them, so the buy-in is there.
Bravo. And you're not doing the same old thing over and over
Bingo.
again
Yeah.
without a purpose. So one of the heights of anyone's career is being selected to have their ensemble perform at the Midwest Clinic. And of course, you were selected to play. I still remember your concert. I remember your dad conducting and a trumpet solo. Who was your trumpet soloist? It was
Chris Martin.
That's what I thought. That little
Yeah.
guy plays a little.
Yeah, probably never heard of him. Yeah.
I couldn't remember which one of the Martin brothers you had there, but that's great. So, talk about that. How did that affect you, and how did that affect your students?
Yeah, so, where I taught in Cobb County was in tiny little Powder Springs, Georgia, and it's a very close-knit community. A lot of the reason why I love teaching there so much. I mean, the brothers and sisters, and then you hit that, well, I'm now teaching kids of kids I taught. But in that tiny little town, there's a whole lot of those students that had never been out of the state. So when we found out, and I shared this with Paula last week, when you get that letter in the mail and you find out you've been accepted, your first reaction is, oh my gosh, we got accepted, we're going to Midwest. And then it settles in, you're like, oh God, how are we going to get in there? How are we going to pay for this? So immediately we were like guns a-blazing and figuring out how we're going to pay for this, what fundraisers do we have to do, all those things. But because it was a lot of hard work, not only preparing the band and all the extra rehearsals that come in that for the students and the investment they made with their time, it was the investment with the money too. With all the fundraisers, we had so many people in our community that would sponsor families so that not only their child could go, but the parents could go on the trip too. We had an entire bus full of just parent chaperones that went on that trip. Our principal came. So the investment from the community in this, there were newspaper articles about it. The principal at the high school we fed into bought really nice Land's End jackets for the entire band. So they all had, our logo on it with their name and their instrument and the whole deal. So that was an imprint for those students that they will never, ever, ever forget, So it meant a lot. And that performance, you can't sum that up unless you've been there and done that. But it wasn't even just their performance. It was all the sightseeing they got to do. Like I said, a lot of them never being out of the state of Georgia, getting on a plane and going to Chicago and going to all the museums we took them to, Blue Man Group, all those experiences,
You got some pictures, yes?
I do. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, this is actually a picture at Midwest. There's Chris Martin with trumpet, and on my left shoulder is my dad, who was a guest conductor, which was super special, and then my two fabulous assistants, Travis Downs and Matt Thomas. And then there's pictures of the kids now. So I have to tell this story real quick. Coming up on, I think now 18 years since we played there. So these are not kids anymore. These are adults that have their own children, have moved on in life and are professionals. But I posted something on Facebook about Midwest, and we were actually one of the featured recordings that they showed for Midwest during COVID when that was all shut down. And when I posted that they were going to be one of the featured recordings, the kids went nuts and they started posting pictures of how much, them and their jackets and how much that experience meant to them. And to this day, they still wear their jackets. And so when I knew I was going to be doing this interview with Paula, I couldn't find all those pictures. So I real quick last night posted again, hey, do me a favor. If you still got those jackets or those beanies that you had or any of that, take a picture and post it. And so they're coming in like hotcakes, and these are just 6 I got from last night. So just a really neat, you go back and being able to see what imprint, like I said, that had and that experience had on those students to this day. And, you just go in and read the comments and you're like, man, it was all worth it, because that's why we do what we do, right? It's all about creating those memorable experiences for those kids. So none of these people you see on this screen are band directors, but they have that love of music that they took with them. And now probably their kids are going to be in band. So yeah, it was pretty special. I appreciate you taking the time to let me share that.
Oh, I think, and anyone is watching, Erin, has figured out that one of the keys to your success is the fact that you love what you do, and it comes through so loud and clear. And also that you're determined to do whatever it takes to make sure that your kids can be successful. And that's the earmark of a master teacher. And I thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. And those of you watching, if you have questions, and that's one of the things about all of us at the Consumer Division of Education, we're here for you. And we want to share, and we know what you're going through, and anything that we can do to assist you, that is our mission. And so, and looking ahead, we have, I used a little metaphor that when I was advertising this, and I said, I watched a little bit of Star Trek, or no, Star Wars, right? Yeah. So I decided that Erin was our Princess Leia. And her quote was, "I am not a committee." She's the most organized, dedicated person I think I've ever seen. And then in October, we're featuring Lynn Jackson. Lynn Jackson begins her, get this, 53rd year of teaching. And if you've attended any of her workshops, you know that she too is a master teacher. And she's our Yoda. Try or try not, do or do not. There is no try. So, and that becomes our philosophy. So, Erin, again, thank you so much. Thank those of you who are watching, and anything that we can do for you. And Erin is a master. So thanks. And everybody, we're wishing it. And we know you're starting. We hope that you have a really, really successful year.